Welcome to Navigating Texas Workforce Commission for Musicians, an interactive panel discussion. Fridays at 1 p.m. Brought to you by the Austin Federation of Musicians and with the Unemployment Compensation Advisory Committee. The Unemployment Compensation Advisory Committee are members of the Austin Federation of Musicians, Local 433 of the American Federation of Musicians, aka the Musicians Union. Some of us work as contractor 1099 workers, and others work as employee W-2 workers in various aspects of the music industry.
The goal of this session is to share our experiences, including trials and tribulations related to the Texas Workforce Commission, or TWC, with other musicians in the state of Texas to aid in navigating the TWC application process. We are not experts in unemployment assistance. We are musicians.
The information contained herein does not constitute either legal advice or an official pronouncement or a position of the Austin Federation of Musicians, but rather is only the personal opinions of the panelists. The panelists do not give legal advice or make official rulings on agency matters, should not be cited as authorities in any matter before the agency or when dealing with agency staff about a case, and must minimize their involvement with administrative processes. They also do not give legal advice on any other matter, and any information they should give should not be used as a basis for taking any employment-related action. Before taking any employment action that could adversely affect an employee, or before using any sample form or policy you may obtain from this group, you should consult a licensed private sector employment law attorney of your choice. All right, welcome back. This is Navigating Texas Workforce Commission for Musicians for May 14th, 2021. Joining me are Mark and Russell. Hello, gentlemen. Yeah, we always emphasize the websites down in the show notes. If you're looking for the most current information on Texas Workforce Commission, that's the place to start. And of course it has our local unions resources as well. And yeah, we encourage you to check those out if you haven't already. And keep in touch with us. Let us know what's going on with your situation as well, because sharing information is how we'll get through this. But we always start with beverages. I'm doing coffee once again. How about you, gentlemen?
Green tea, as always.
Spring water.
Spring water. There you go. Remarkably consistent. we celebrated our 1-year anniversary last week, and I think the drinks have not changed, except when we had guests. Then we had some different drinks, but that's good though. Yeah, right on. Okay. Well, we might as well kick in just kind of with what we're hearing from musicians. We've been talking about kind of weird hijinks with the unemployment system, sort of slowing down some of the payments. And most of the musicians we've been talking to have now had their payments restored, but it appears to be some kind of hijinks with reporting work while you're collecting unemployment, which you're supposed to be able to do. And you are supposed to do. You're required to do if you work. And of course, our work is always a different employer every night of the week, and that seems to be confusing the system more so than it did over the winter. Is that kind of what you guys are hearing as well?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a pretty long conversation with a woman from the TWC. This was maybe 2 weeks ago or less, and I could really tell she was a very intelligent woman, and she knew a lot about the system, but I could tell that she was really kind of confused about what our work was like. Mm-hmm. She didn't understand that when you're self-employed, that really means that you're working for a lot of people. And, I told her, I said, well, she asked me what gigs I'd had, and I told her, and she said, well, are you employed by those people? And I said, no. I said, I'm self-employed. Those are one-off gigs. And she said, well, do you ever work for those same people again? And I said, sure. And that really confused her. She didn't know how to comprehend that within the system. She wasn't antagonistic at all. She was very, very nice. And I think actually my explaining my gig situation to her helped her to understand what was really going on with those of us who are sole proprietors or contractors or whatever you want to call us. So I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of fundamental misunderstanding is pretty rampant in the TWC, especially because, they haven't, it's only been a year since they've been dealing with us, right?
Yeah,
True.
they never would have communicated with us at all before the pandemic. Yeah, because we didn't qualify.
And so now that we are in the system, I think some people there may be kind of puzzled about what our status is now that they're getting to the point of, dealing with fraud and dealing with people who are misrepresenting themselves or whatever. When we describe our situation to them, it's kind of something that they may not have ever heard of before. I mean, it may be really pretty new to them, which is great. It's a good thing to expose them to how we work and what we do. But
yeah, I wonder. I heard from another musician this week that got their payments fixed, and he kind of had the opposite experience to what you described. But I wonder if it was the same person. Maybe that he talked to after you talked to the same person, because
it could be, yeah.
She apparently that this musician, according relayed this to me that he talked to a woman on the phone who was very, worked very fast and told her that she understood that he was a self-employed musician, and so what she was seeing on her screen made sense to her, but that the system was confused and she was able to fix it really fast.
Great.
So maybe there's some progress coming in, and that could have been helped by your explanation. Potentially.
Well, I was on the phone for a while with that gal, and like I say, she wasn't antagonistic. She seemed to me to be really honestly wanting to understand what my situation was. So,
well, that's great. Yeah, man. What I've been hearing is from other musicians as well is. That as they're talking to folks, different folks at the TWC, they're saying that the TWC folks are saying that exactly what you were saying. When a musician reports that they've done some work, and then that next question on the form is, are you scheduled to return to work for this employer? And they put no. and even if they are going to work for that employer again, they don't know when. That's not on the schedule yet. So
right.
Yeah, so that something with that confuses the system, and so some musicians have been asking, like, oh, well, so does this mean that I shouldn't report this work because it's confusing the system? And they're like, no, I'm not saying that. Because they can't.
You got to report the work,
and you do.
It's up to the system to figure it out, and there may be some more bumps in the road on our way.
Yeah.
On the way here, as we go along.
And it's also up to us to be as honest and forthright as we can, even if the questions don't make sense, so that you can say, like, I was honest about what I was seeing, and I answered the question to the best of my ability, in case there are problems coming up. But hopefully there'll be less problems as we go forward, but we'll see. Yeah. Have you heard from anybody about this, Russell, this week?
I have, but the people that I've heard from are kind of panicking.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because they see on the news and the TV channels how people have their help warning signs up, and people are not making enough when they go back to these positions, so they're opting to stay on their unemployment, and they're beginning to think that the government may see our work like that, like you guys are just not going back to work because you're making more sitting at home.
Mm-hmm.
which is not the case. We want to work, and we do work when we can.
Yeah, with music work, it's not like there's like a $2 an hour job that's waiting for us that we can just jump into. It's not there, know. And,
right.
Yeah, and tips or whatever. The work is not going to be there for. There's some work, but. Yeah, exactly. And we did kind of always know that this was going to happen. I mean, we've been talking about this the whole year since last April when we started getting together on this. That the rest of society is going to be back to full functionality before we are.
Right.
Because we rely on discretionary income, and people being comfortable enough to go out to have fun, not because they need to go out, and also people having disposable income too. That's I guess that's the same as discretionary income, but yeah, absolutely. So that's why it's been so important for us all to get the help that we could get and to live as lean as we can, because it is going to take us longer. And yeah, there are a couple of articles in the newspaper about exactly that topic, Russell. Yeah, where was that? Yeah, as businesses increase, some Williamson County restaurants face staff shortages, and it kind of goes into some of the details as far as the restaurant industry. And it talks about how some of those workers have gone into like construction, because those folks are working, man. Our brothers and sisters in the building trades, they've got a lot of work, so that's attracted a lot of folks that were in the restaurant industry. And the good thing, the beginning of the article is kind of hostile towards working people, like we've seen, where they say, oh, they're just staying home because they don't want to work, which is not the truth at all. But they do actually mention later in the article, where it says that the truth is the minimum cash wage if you're a waiter in Texas is $2.13 an hour because they get tips, And so if your restaurant's not full of people, you can't make that worth it,
Right.
if you're not
Right. Yeah.
you don't have the customers. So it's now some of these restaurants do have the customers, but the workers have already left. They've already gone somewhere else, or they're not willing to come back, or they don't trust the COVID protocols. Maybe I don't know. So I don't know. Unfortunately, that article is one of these ones with the Statesman that's marked for subscribers only. So I can give the link on the thing, but on the show notes, but I'm not sure if people will be able to click on it or not. But anyway, it's interesting. And then that leads us into the conversation of the giant shift in mask wearing protocols that happened yesterday. Holy cow! Yeah, where did you guys hear about that first?
I was actually on Twitter
Hmm.
when I saw it from the president,
Mm.
and I thought, well, let's see how fast this shotguns around to the rest of the country. So I stayed on Twitter and I was watching, the little people do their stuff, and governors were all in line for, some of them, like our governor, has already implemented that,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the whole holdup between the governor's staff, Ken Paxton, suing the city of Austin because they wouldn't go along with it.
Mm.
So, to me, it kind of feeds into how they're going to use this to force people to take low-paying jobs and unsafe work, because this will be the genesis of cutting your benefits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a topic we have to discuss as well. Yeah, some of the states doing that already. But what about you, Mark? Where did you hear about the mask thing first?
I just heard it from the news feeds.
Yeah.
That it was national CDC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I heard about it like word of mouth first, and then I was like, oh, I better look this up, and because I was working on something, and and then I saw the President Biden announcement. I thought for sure he was going to get an ice cream cone and be like, hey, we're back. So many of those photos with the ice cream cones, but
Yeah.
And one other thing, right after that thing went into effect, I got a text from the CDC, and I don't know if you guys have gotten these, but the Moderna vaccine, they text you every so often to see how you're doing, and especially
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
research purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is one of the few times where I've ever answered a race question. Usually I just ignore those, but I just put, okay, I am black, because I know that they're studying that and seeing if there's a prediction for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so as soon as that mask mandate came down, got another text from them asking how was my health? Was I out last week? How am I feeling? Do I have a fever? Basically, they were checking to see if I had COVID, and they gave me a phone number that if I was sick to call that number, and they would kind of help me get, I guess, more care.
Right.
But it was clear as day what they're doing is
Like,
that they're surveying
mhm,
because it's the minorities that are still kind of hesitant against the vaccine,
Hmm.
mhm.
and they're studying that to see how those of us that have had it, how we fare with it.
Well, Russell, that's the same system that was in place right after you got the shot daily. You were supposed to report in, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I don't remember that first week when I was reporting in every day that there was any race question.
Oh, it's on the initial application.
I see. Okay, okay, yeah, right. Just
Yeah.
when you're getting started with that
Mm-hmm.
whole thing. I see. Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I remember something like that, and I remember getting a few texts, but I haven't received one in weeks.
I get one every week,
Do you get one
roughly
every
every
week?
week.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I still do. Yeah.
Okay. Man. Yeah, maybe it affects how the way I answered it or something. Yeah. But that's interesting. Maybe the groups that you two guys are in, they're more interested in the data. It sounds like that. I think that's what you're suggesting, right, Russell?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Oh man. Well, that's an interesting development. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. I think they're trying to encourage more people to get vaccinated with that, right? I think that's the goal um, of that. Aside from the more sinister goal that you were saying, Russell, I think that some of the politicians clearly have with their relationship with businesses and corporations, which is definitely a huge concern for all of us in the labor movement and across the AFL-CIO and everything else. We definitely got to watch out for that, and we can't really concede that point. Where they keep saying like, oh, people are staying home because they can or whatever. Like nobody wants to stay home anymore. Like
Mm-mm.
we're
No,
not.
no. People are ready to get out and
Oh,
work and do
Absolutely.
stuff,
oh man,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
we've done everything we can do at home. Like we're ready to get out
Yeah.
there, man.
One other thing, somebody turned me on to, I guess it was yesterday or the day before yesterday. I don't know if you guys know about this. It's something called the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program.
No,
Never
what
heard
is
that.
that?
Well, I applied for it. It I guess it's federal, and you do an application similar to all those other applications that we've done for all these other grants and stuff, and it will pay up to $50 a month. I think this is what it is, $50 a month for your broadband service. So if you have whatever, any one of the major ones, I'm sure would qualify you, and that program will pay $50 a month towards your purchase of that
Huh.
material. And then I think there's also another aspect to it, which is a one-time payment for something, which I didn't follow. So I
Like an
completed
equipment
the
cost?
application. Something like that. And so I completed the application yesterday, but I haven't heard whether I've been accepted or not yet.
Wow.
Yeah, it requires that you, it gives you two different categories of stuff that you have to submit, one from each category. One of them was TWC benefits payment page. So I submitted that. And the other one was my taxes for 2020 when I submitted that. So, the guidelines are, I think any of us would qualify, it looks like. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's, let me look it up here. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program, and you apply through something called the Lifeline National Verifier,
Huh.
which
Wow.
is something that it's probably something like the ID Me
Mm-hmm.
people, but anyway, that's how you do the application for that. So I encourage people to do it. It looks like, free stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, it helps you. I mean, we wouldn't be able to do this what we're doing right now without broadband, and
Yeah,
you know,
right.
you wouldn't be able to to send tracks to anybody or do
Yeah,
online
I mean,
lessons or anything without
$50 a month is nothing to sneeze at. So
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. No, I mean that's that is one of the goals of like the infrastructure plan that's coming up too. Is right to increase the access to broadband into the rural areas, and the more people that have that are able to pay for broadband where it's available now, that'll enable those companies to expand further out into the
right.
rural areas, I suppose. But yeah, that's just a cost that you can't do without when you're working from home. So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, send me the link, Mark. I'll put it in the
Yeah,
in the notes.
it's through the FCC, or it's overseen by the Federal Communications Commission. So
It makes sense.
yeah,
Broadband and federal commission, yeah, that makes.
yeah, and it seems to be also somewhat targeting tribal lands, because the amount that the discount program that you can get is higher for tribal land. So that's good. That's a cool thing.
Yeah. Right on, man. Right on. Okay. Well, yeah, I guess we should probably continue on into the discussion of the states that are cutting the unemployment benefits, right? The
Yeah.
federal, at least the federal boost to unemployment benefits, right? I think that's what most of them are doing. They're not cutting their state benefits. They're just cutting the federal boost, the
The
$300
300. Yeah, yeah.
earlier than it would normally have, right? Because it's supposed to go to September 1st right now,
Hmm.
but several states now are cutting it early um, because their businesses are telling them that people won't come back to work. And I just can't imagine that's true. But yeah, but it's especially obvious with the restaurant workers. I mean, that's, everybody goes to restaurants and we see those signs, help wanted or closed, because everybody was posting those pictures, closed due to no staff or whatever, and, pay them, just pay them. Yeah, if there's money to be made, pay them. But so, gosh, I mean, Alabama's the one that was in the news this week.
But I think there's 7 or 8 states that have curtailed or will be curtailing
Right.
the benefit, their benefits,
Yeah,
federal benefits.
I think I've got a list here from the
And
Tennessee.
I don't think Texas
Tennessee-
is far behind. I think Texas will do that within the next 2 weeks.
It
So,
seems like the rumblings are there. I think you're right.
yeah.
I think I've got a list here. So we've got Tennessee, Alabama, and Mississippi are the latest ones. But then there's also Montana, Arkansas, South Carolina, Missouri, and Iowa.
Mhm.
And they all have, of course, Republican governors that are very tight with their business, partners and whatnot. And that's what they're doing. They're pulling out that federal benefit. I think that also includes that mixed earner unemployment income in some of those states, which our state hasn't even finished implementing. I don't think anyone's got that yet.
That may never get done.
Yeah, which is really a shame because a lot of us suffered because of that. A lot of musicians suffered because they had both. They had W-2s and 1099s. And again, the system couldn't resolve both of those types of income at the same time.
You hate to say this, but it needs to be said. Every one of those states that you named are in the bottom echelon of education.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah, I mean, as far as like public education, and education. Yeah, public education is education. I mean, really, it's yeah. I think you're right. We also were talking
lambs being led to slaughter.
Yeah. You can talk about how the population tends to vote against its own self-interest and everything. Definitely Alabama and Mississippi are definitely known for that, and some of those other states as well. Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, oof. That's a heavy concept, but I think you're right. Yeah, and Texas is included in that, and yeah, I think that's why we may not be far behind. So, and that we've kind of been talking about this the whole time. I mean, since last April, how a lot of this assistance that's available right now is available to musicians because it's available to everyone. And it's going to go away for everyone before our work really comes back. right? And that we just have to keep saying that. You know, try to get the help that you can right now as a music worker, because it's going to be some lean times coming back. Our work's not going to be fully back until everybody's comfortable going out for fun, not just for work. You know that they have to. We're going to see. I think we're going to see a like kind of a boom of people going out because they can, especially like this weekend probably, right, with the mask thing. People are going to go out because they can, but then it's going to squeeze back in, especially if another variant comes out or something, or a more infectious thing happens. It's going to seize back up again, and some of this help may not be available then. So, get some help while you can, and then be prepared. Because our ramp up is going to take longer, I think, and I think most people think that, right? But, yeah. Oh man. Anyway, doom and gloom. What other things were we talking about here? Goodness. Oh, some good news. Some outdoor music stuff has been happening. In the paper, the Smithville Music in the Park series has been happening. I think it wraps up next week or maybe this week. And that's a cool outdoor thing that's been happening with music. And I think just starting is the Round Rock one, right? The Round Rock Music on Main. So that helps because it gets everybody, it gets the audience comfortable with outdoor music, which is the safest avenue you can have for music right now. Is an outdoor type of gig. So yeah, so that's good news. I think I'll put those articles in the show notes. Yeah, let's see. What else were we going to talk about, fellas? I'm trying to remember the last things. That might have been about it.
I think that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, we'll just kind of giving the rundown, and we'll just keep sharing information about this stuff. Were there any updates on eviction? The eviction moratorium's being lifted? I hadn't heard anything this week.
Haven't either.
I haven't heard any new news.
We got to keep our eyes on that.
Yeah.
Of course, we're still doing our, the union's still helping people with unemployment, the union office unemployment. Any union musician that gets COVID qualifies for the Disabled Musicians Fund that we have. So, everybody that's had COVID. We didn't even talk about the union members we lost with Denny Freeman last week, and Paul Osher before that from the blues scene too. Well, I guess both of those guys are in the blues scene, right?
Yeah. Well, I went to Denny's memorial yesterday.
Oh, God bless you. Yeah.
Yeah. It was very good. Very moving.
I'm sure. Yeah. Very well loved musician and union member.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know those guys were union members, and that's a thing too. It's a shame. That they didn't get to tell more people about that. And I actually had a meeting with Paul I had a meeting scheduled the day after he died.
Wow.
We were going to get together and talk about the Disabled Musicians Fund because he would have qualified for that had he lived. And
he had COVID.
Yeah, that was definitely COVID complications, right? What was the thing with Denny?
Cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the same thing with Scotty this week. That was cancer. Scott Lanningham.
Right? I heard that was a heart attack.
Oh, heart thing. I think you're right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And not to. And of course, Scott was a former union member as well, and it's like, oh man, yeah, it's a brutal year. But anyway, yeah. Not to end on that note, but I think each of us are working to some extent this weekend. So, music business.
It's crawling back. Yeah,
it is
little by little. Things are starting to come into focus. So,
and we can do it. We have all the tools to do it safely wherever we are, and So, all right. Well, you, the viewer, if you are in the music business, don't give up. We can get through this by sharing information and solidarity, and we'll be back next week to talk about whatever issues are happening. And thank you for joining Mark and Russell. And I'm Aaron, and we'll see you next week. Take care.